we need to talk about this. I made the video called Hair Loss Theory, Pornography Increases Balding Anxiety and Decreases Confidence. I received a comment saying, quote, Nick, I have an idea for you. You should start doing surveymonkey.com polls on your audience. Then you can show and talk about the results in a future video. You say that you'd like to know how many viewers watch pornography, etc. Well, we could know with an anonymous poll, and no one needs an account if you're using a website like SurveyMonkey, so I bet you would get a good number of viewer votes, end quote. Here's how I feel about that. At first I was like, yeah, then I was like, no. Because I already know the answer. I already assume in my mind that over 99% of people who watch my channel look at pornography and watch pornography, in my mind. And please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but it's just that the reality of it, and especially with pornography being as accessible as it is now, here's what makes me think this way. A couple years ago, I read this article about this Canadian company that was wanting to research men who had never looked at pornography versus those who had, and I guess basically look at their perceptions of things and do a survey on them. Problem is they couldn't find one man who had never looked at pornography. Now, I could have been that guy, but I wasn't Canadian, and I didn't know about the survey. But it is true about me. I've never looked at pornography. I've had somebody try to show it to me, and I went the other way. One time I was out in the woods behind my parents' house. There's this giant rock behind their house, and in the crevice of the rock, someone had put a magazine in there, and I was out there on the rock, and this is me, I was a teenager, I was like 15 or whatever, and I assumed it was like a car magazine because I was in the process of like, getting a car, and I pulled it out, and I saw very clearly in the front, Playboy. I got it, and I hurled it off the side of the mountain into the canyon. And I never went and looked for it because I didn't care. I wanted to get it out of my life. I fundamentally have always been exposed to pornography. And I think part of the problem as far as with pornography is it becomes this moral thing, like almost like this religious thing, like you shouldn't look at porn. But in reality, take away the religious aspect of it. Even take away the moral aspect of it, that it's somebody's daughter and all that stuff. Take all that out. Psychologically, exposing yourself to pornography subconsciously rewires your mind. And it gives you obviously unrealistic expectations of women, but even unrealistic expectations of yourself. It really crushes your identity and your confidence. And people don't talk about that. They get caught up so much in the religious and the moral part of it that I've always looked at the psychological point of view more so than the other stuff. And I think that's why I've been so headstrong against pornography my whole life, so that I've never seen it. Now granted, yeah, there's R-rated movies that I've seen clips of naked women in that, but probably more so the movie Titanic, rated PG-13. There's even PG rated movies with topless women in it. So it's like, but as far as me actively sorting out privately pornography, no, I've always been opposed to it. So if the closest we can talk about for me is a PG-13 rated movie or R, whatever it's rated, they can still put pornography in there, It's a matter that I have never sought it out. And a lot of you, I think, do seek it out. And it's part of your life, it's part of your lifestyle, it's part of your weekly ritual, however often, daily, I don't know. The point is, your brain is being rewired, and mine never has. So would it make sense that I would be more confident than so many people who subscribe to my channel? And would it make sense that something like hair loss is going to trigger you more so than me? Especially with pornography, I guess, like with movies, if you're looking at other guys that are, that's another reason not to watch pornography. I don't want to see it. Okay, but anyway, I'm guessing they have pretty full heads of hair too, which only reinforces that concept that you have to look nearly perfect to get a girl that's going to look like that and who's going to want you. And I think what makes it worse for a lot of you too is, I would assume, many of you are playing the game. You look at this time in your life as, okay, for the next X amount of years, let's see how many girls I can get with. Know this, not everybody thinks that way. Not every man thinks that or not every teenager or a guy in his 20s thinks that in order to become a man, that he has to sleep with a woman, and how soon. Not every guy believes that. but it's a broken system that I'm sure a lot of you do. So you combine how pornography rewires your mind, and then combine with that you think in your mind, I better take advantage of this time in my life while I'm still young. But some men never play those games at all. Some men are more confident because they never play those games and do those things. And it may be shocking for you to hear me talking about this now, but I think it's important. I think there are have you ever even heard someone that you respect tell you that pornography, aside from religious and moral aspects, is destroying you? And on top of that, have you heard a cool guy that you respect tell you that I actually think it's pathetic for a guy to see how many girls he can sleep with? I think that's pathetic to play that game. I think no wonder so many guys are insecure about themselves, because that's how they view women. Maybe I'm just this ultra feminist and I never realized it. But as long as you believe that you're not a man until you have sex for the first time or often or whatever it is, that itself is a broken system, and that only reinforces all the toxic illusions that pornography reinforces. So I'm like the antithesis of what happens as long as you believe you got to go play the game in real life. Meanwhile, you prepare for it with pornography. And I'm outside of that system altogether. It's a broken system to believe that you're not a man until you're sleeping with women. That's a broken system. So is pornography. And I'm not saying this in a way that I'm looking down on you. I'm saying this because I have compassion and I feel bad that so many of you guys are caught up in that. Because imagine my life, I'm not caught up in that at all. And you can't just say, well, that's different, Nick, you're married. No. I'm very aware that plenty of men who are married in relationships and that are religious, I understand that even religious men still suffer pornography addiction at a very high rate. So religion's not enough to stop you from doing this. But I think it's a matter of becoming like my mindset. If you truly believe it's toxic and it's going to hold you back in life, because it's all about psychology, it's all about believing in yourself. It's hard to believe in yourself when you're looking at these images that aren't real and they're reinforcing negative concepts of both men and women. So perhaps we've got a lot more to talk about on this, but I needed to make this video to take it to the next step. My guess is there are very few men who've never looked at pornography, and I'm one of them. And my guess is most of you have and still do. So of course you need a guy like me to help show you reality on all this. And I think a lot of you are going to be conflicted after watching this video. Because are you willing to give up pornography? Would you ever want to? Could you give it up for the rest of your life? Are you addicted? And that's going to be one of my next videos I talk about, is addictions and how confident men are willing and able to make unpopular decisions. There's a lot of things in my life decisions I've made there, I choose not to participate. And what is normal, I chose from the very beginning not to participate in pornography. I chose from the very beginning not to play the whole game about you're not a real man until you sleep with a woman. And then begins the counter how many, before you get too old and creepy for girls to want you. I never played those games. And I'm probably the only person that you respect who's ever said that to you. There's a good chance of that. And now you've got to sort this out thinking, wait, I thought Nick was a cool guy, but wait, is he cool or I don't know what to think about Nick, because he's really freaking me out about all this stuff right now. I just came to watch a video about hair loss, and now he's telling me that pornography is ultimately fundamentally only making my insecurities worse. And it's only reinforcing the fact that I feel like I've got a limited amount of time to sleep with all these women before my time's up. Nick, that's totally against what I believe. Some of you might be thinking now. Exactly. And so much of what I say is against the default that brought you here to begin with because of your hair loss and insecurity. But Nick, a little porn's okay? Not if you're asking me. I say a little is already too much. Once you open the door, you're gonna keep going back and you'll justify it. Well, just once a week's okay, once a month's okay, once a year, every so often's okay. Nick Shell doesn't say that. I say, I'm assuming most of you have opened that door. But Nick Shell would say, you shut the door, you lock the door, you forget the door exists because you're facing this way now. Okay? So I've made this video, I've said some probably unpopular things. It'd have to be unpopular things if most men look at pornography. Maybe it's not 99%. Maybe if with 4,000 subscribers, I'd have to have nearly 40 of you, right, to say, Nick, I don't look at porn for me to be right. So unless I get 40 comments from 40 different people in the comment section saying, Nick, I don't look at pornography, then there's no need for some survey. I assume it's the norm. And Nick Shell says, don't be normal.